Welcome to another Terrific Tips for Business podcast. I'm Terry, your host, and that's why we call it Terrific Tips, because you can't spell terrific without Terry. I'm so excited to have a legal expert with us today, Mr. Wayne Schoeneberg. And I met Wayne through another podcast guest, so I was very fortunate that one of my guests made the introduction for me to have him on the show, because I think he's got some really great knowledge for us as business owners to tap into. So for those of you that don't know Wayne, let me introduce you. Wayne Schoeneberg was born in New Orleans, and then he moved to the St. Louis area fairly early on. And in 1968, he earned his undergraduate degree in political science at the University of Missouri at Columbia. Following his graduation, he joined the Army and, of course, made a wonderful name for himself while he was there. And after completing his service, Mr. Schoeneberg returned to the University of Missouri at Columbia for law school. After graduation, he began his distinguished career as a member of the Missouri Bar, practicing even, in the eastern Missouri area. He has been admitted to practice in the Supreme Court of the United States, multiple federal appeal circuits, and the United States District Courts throughout the country and the courts of the state of Missouri. So he's very well known across all of the country for the work that he's done. And due to this and his exceptional achievements, Mr. Schoeneberg's professional and volunteer work is highly regarded by his peers. Martindale-Hubbell, a professional association with rankings based upon peer input on ability and ethics, awarded Mr. Schoeneberg with an AV, their highest rating. Additionally, he's the member of the $1 Million Advocates, a group of attorneys who have obtained verdicts of $1 million or more, and was designated a top 100 trial lawyer by the National Trial Lawyers Association. You guys know now why he's on our show. We haven't had an attorney on the show, nor have we had an attorney of this esteem on our show. So we're very excited to have him with us today. He's also served as an advocate in the National College of Trial Lawyers. And moreover, Mr. Schoeneberg has served the community through his efforts in the board of the O'Fallon Family YMCA, the board of the Missouri Association of Trials Attorneys, and the board of the St. Louis Gateway chapter of the National Speaker Association, serving in many capacities, including president in his time there. And he's currently a member of the National Speakers Association Chapter Leadership Committee, serving as an advisor to 3 chapters throughout the United States. He is the founder of the Superlative Coaching LLC, which serves as an executive coach to business persons throughout the United States. Wayne is a professional speaker who is hired by organizations that want their members and employees to increase their performance, productivity, and personal satisfaction by establishing a culture of confidence. He and his wife, Rebecca, still live and reside in St. Louis, Missouri. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Wayne Schoeneberg to the show. Welcome, Wayne.
Thank you, Terry. Okay, I guess that's me. My wife wrote that up, so I don't know.
Oh, I had somebody else on the show recently who, when I read out like everything that they had done afterwards, was like, wow, I've done all of those things. It's kind of cool to hear all of your accomplishments read out by somebody else.
Yeah. That's, God love my wife. She's my biggest fan, my biggest PR person. So good for her.
We all need somebody in our corner for sure. So talk to us, why small businesses? Why is that a passion for you with the work that you've done? Because you've done so many different things over the years.
Well, all right, it's really simple. When I was in my senior year in law school, I met a man who was also a lawyer, and he said, look, well, let's go in business together. I'll buy this title company in a city called Warrenton, Missouri, a little tiny place. There are 4,500 people in Warren County, Missouri, which is about 100 miles west of maybe not 100, Anyway, west of St. Louis, little rural area. He said, I'll buy the title company. We'll put my money into it. You'll go up there where this lawyer is retiring. He'll sell us the business. You go up there and take over his practice, run the title company, and we're set. And I thought, that's great. Okay. I mean, my future is assured, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't interview for any jobs. I had one. Everything was set. Well, during my final exam week, actually after my last final, I called the lawyer who was selling us the title company. And he was an older gentleman. And remember, it's a small rural community, and everything was done on a handshake. Mistake number one. And I said, look, Al, I'm done with my last final. And I had been up there and I met with Al and he showed me where my desk was going to be and where I was going to work and how the whole thing operated. I was ready to hit the ground running. And he said, oh, Wayne, I remembered that I had promised so-and-so, another lawyer in town, that if I ever sold the title company, he'd have the right of first refusal. And so I was no job, no clients. So what do? I went up to Warren County, to Warrenton, Missouri, where I had planned to go, and I started a business. And I took that business at the end of I found a guy who said he had more business than he knew what to do with another lawyer, and we partnered up. He did not have more business than he knew what to do. He might have had more business than he knew what to do with. He just didn't have a lot of business. At the end of the first month, my take was $64. So yes. So, and it didn't get much better than that for a while. So in 1974, which is almost 40 some odd years ago, I started a business with absolutely nothing but
$64 in your pocket.
Yeah, and I didn't have the $64 before that. Actually, I had been working by then in law school. I was working as a bartender. I was making more money the last year I attended bar than the first year I practiced law.
I believe it. Yeah.
But I learned, look, I made 100 mistakes along the way in running that business. I learned lesson after lesson after lesson about how to do it. I have, I say proudly and without arrogance, I have made millions of dollars since 1974. And if you started where I started and you've ended up where I am, I can help you if you want to anyway. I can help you do that, because small businesses, you're lonely. You're sometimes afraid to ask people for advice, because who do you ask for advice on how to do something in your own profession except people in your own profession or your own industry? And you don't want to be known. Let's say you're in the heating and air conditioning business and you run across a problem. Well, you're there and you're competing with all the rest of these people, or you see it that way, that you're competing with the rest of these people. And so you're hesitant to ask them how to do something. You're hesitant to go there for advice, but that's wrong. Okay, that's one of the things. It's one of the mistakes. So I've just seen so many business, and again, I've represented all sorts of people in business, and I've seen so many business people make these little mistakes that have been so important to their careers and how they progress, that I thought I would take that, and not in a way of legal advice, because I am not, the people I coach and the people I work with, I'm not their lawyer, but a friend of mine calls me the puzzle master. I teach you how all those puzzle pieces go together, and there are hundreds of puzzle pieces, and it's just a matter of knowing how they fit together, and once they fit together, road's pretty smooth.
Interesting. So business is a puzzle, and there is the right way to put it together.
Oh, no question about that. Yes.
Who would have known that?
Well, you see, people have, it's funny to watch people work with puzzles. People have all sorts of different ways to do it. Some people get them, they start with the corner, and they look through all the pieces and they find the corners, and then they go down the edge and they frame it in. And that's one way to do it. But one of the things that I talk about,
me and my mom start our puzzles.
What's that?
I said it's generally the way me and my mom start our puzzles.
Okay, well, yeah. and that's one way to do it. All right. And then some people will take it and they'll just build from the bottom up. They don't frame it in. They just go to the, or the top. They'll take so there are all sorts of ways to do it. Learning how to do it and learning what's best for you is critical. But the place to start, and if there's one piece of advice that your listeners come away with, and by the way, are we doing video too or just audio?
It's video too.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Uh,
So don't pick your nose or anything.
the one piece of advice that your viewers and listeners, I hope, come away with is know how the puzzle looks when you're finished.
Mm.
Have an exit plan, because once you have that exit plan, everything you do, if you're doing it correctly, everything you do is designed to be within the bounds of that exit plan. So the decisions that you make, every decision that you make will be towards putting that puzzle piece together so that the exit plan all comes together correctly. And if you don't have an exit plan, what is it? Where are you going? How, you start a lemonade stand. Your exit plan is at the end of the day, you pick the stuff up from the end of the driveway and you bring it back into the garage, or your mom or your dad does that. You at least have an exit plan. But what if you don't have an exit plan? Then where are you going? When you make this decision, is it going to be complementary to this decision over here? And without that exit plan, you're jumping back and forth and you're jumping all around. So that's the one thing that I stress to everybody when I start is let's come up with an exit plan, and then we'll work towards that.
Interesting. That's such a good point, and that actually reminds me of some of the early business coaching stuff that I've followed for years, like John Maxwell. He talks a lot about having an exit plan and knowing what you're doing all of this for. Because if you don't have like a clear what are you doing it all for, then why get out of bed in the morning? Like, just stay asleep, So I think that's really important. So what's been one of the biggest challenges that you found for business owners when it comes to developing what that exit plan looks like?
Well, I know a lot of people get in business and they start with, they're all excited about what they're doing now. And it's hard to get some people to look either 5 years or 20 years or 30 years down the road and come up with what's going to happen then. And that's where we get to the puzzle. You see, if I threw 100 pieces of a puzzle in front of you and you had no idea what that puzzle was supposed to look like, you'd have a tough time putting it together. You'd have a tougher time putting it together. You wouldn't understand where any of the pieces fit.
This is true.
And that's why every puzzle you buy comes in a box with a picture on the top, right?
Could you imagine if it came in a box that was just brown and didn't show you?
Yeah, exactly. So you've got this puzzle with no picture. You have no idea. Well, that's the same with your business. I know you're in the business to make ice cream, and you want to sell a lot of ice cream, but because it makes you feel good, okay? And you're helping people. I know that the frozen custard people help me on a regular basis over here, not just a few blocks from my house, and it makes me feel good.
They're super convenient.
Yes, but what's their plan? Where are they going with that? Are they going to someday just come in and go, okay, here, turn the lights off, we're done? Are they going to
Hopefully
pass
not. I said, hopefully not.
Well, exactly. But when you start, I'm going to sell frozen custard. Well, why are you going to sell frozen custard? Aside from it makes you feel good, and aside from it's paying your bills now, where are you going with this? 10 years from now, do you still want to be standing behind this counter pushing frozen custard across? If you do, that's fine. But let's figure that out. Maybe 10 years from now, you want to sell it. Maybe 10 years from now, I'll give you an example. I have a client that is in the retail business, and he has two sons. Now, he took his retail business. He was in the lawn service business before this, and he got to a certain age where he thought cutting lawns is not for him anymore. He went the retail, went the retail business. And I'm not going to tell you what kind of retail business, because I don't want him to be identified in this circumstance.
Sure.
But he started this retail business with no experience at all in the business. And for years, I knew him 2 or 3 years. He became a law client of mine, actually, before he became a business type client. I knew him for a couple of years before we even got around to talking what his dream was. His sons were young at that point. Now his sons are both working in the store, and the plan is to turn the business over to the sons. Now, he's fortunate because the sons want to be in the business, but what if they didn't? Okay, what's the plan? So you've got to have a plan, and you've got to have an exit plan. How are you going to get out of this business? A few years ago, he had a heart attack, ended up in the hospital, wondered whether he was going to live. All right, but he was prepared by that point. He had the papers in order. He knew what was going to happen. His corporate stuff was all in order. The stocks were issued. The minutes were up to date. The succession plans were there. And so that worry wasn't with him while he was laying there in the hospital, and it wasn't with his wife.
Thank goodness.
And it may
But
be,
that was a lifesaver to not have that worry.
it may be that his sons were wringing their hands, but that's a different story.
No pressure, guys. No pressure.
But so that's why it's so important, and it's difficult to get people to think down that line, and I understand that. But when I sit down with people and they come in and they're going to start a plumbing business, I say, okay, how are you going to get out of it? What do you mean? Well, you're 65 years old. You're starting at age 25, and you're going to be in this plumbing business forever. And this does remind me of a guy that was a client of mine, and his son took over the business. But physical jobs like being a plumber, any number of jobs, auto mechanic, I could go on and on. Those jobs take a toll on your body. And fortunately, as a lawyer, I can work a lot longer just physically than people in other professions. But I said to him, at some point, you're going to get to the point where you just can't do this job anymore. So what are you going to do then? He said, well, I hadn't thought about that. I'm 25 years old. Well,
most of us don't.
Yeah, I can do it. I'll worry about that later. Well, if you worry about that later, then you're making decisions in one day you're going in this direction, and the next day you're going in that direction, and the next day you're going in that direction. That isn't going to kill your business. There's no question about that. But it's going to make it a whole lot better if you make every decision along the way based on that picture of the puzzle that's on the front of the box.
That makes sense. And that's what a lot of small businesses do. We get into business because we find something that we're good at. We find something that we like to do. And so then we decide we don't really want to work for somebody else. We want to do it for ourselves. So we're going to go do it for ourselves. But we go and do it for ourselves and don't really have what are we doing this for? And then we wonder why 90% of small businesses fail in the first 10 years.
Exactly. Yeah,
we don't have a direction, guys. Like if we had a direction, I wonder if we would survive longer.
Well, again, that question, of course, may never be answered in individual cases, but I think there is. I've never done a statistical study on it, so I don't want to quote any numbers here, but I think there's a higher success rate with people who are planning how they're going to end this. Because and again, there's nothing wrong with going in one day and turning the lights off, if that's what you want to do.
Sure.
But if you're in this plumbing business or the law business, lawyers, I will tell you, just all think they're going to work until they die. And unless they're in a law firm, they really don't think about succession. The Bar Association is always urging lawyers to come up with a succession plan. I mean, if I drop dead tomorrow, what's going to happen?
Yeah. What's going to happen to your clients? Yeah.
What's going to happen to my clients? What's going to happen? I've got large sums of money that have been paid in advance. Okay,
Yeah.
keep in an escrow account. Um, who gets those?
Yeah.
All right. So I have
Interesting.
a succession, as you might imagine, I have a succession plan. We know
I
who
would
gets.
hope that you do. But like you said, a lot of attorneys don't. And I think a lot of businesses don't, a lot of coaches don't have a succession plan. But like think of your life coaches, think of your health coaches. Like those guys, I mean, if something happened to one of them, there was an accident or something, what's going to happen to their clients who are relying on that accountability call or relying on that coaching call or that therapy call to talk them off of the edge, to put the donut down, to whatever, what's going to happen to them. So a succession plan kind of helps that business owner know what's going to happen to their customers and know their clients are going to be taken care of.
Well, here's a mistake that small business people make, especially those that are in service professions.
Yeah.
We'll take a
Lay it
lawyer.
on us, Wayne. What do we do?
Well, all right. Well, let's talk about coaches and speakers also. All right. Because you are the product, you can't figure out what's going to happen when you quit. So you're the coach, and you do your marketing, and you bring in 10 clients a month at $4,000 a package, and you're knocking down $40,000 a year, and you're going along. So is that just going to end someday? Even so, you get to the age where you're just tired, you're burned out, you've worked all this time. Your spouse is saying, "Hey, take some time off. You got grandkids, you got things you want to do." So do you just quit at that point, and does that cash flow just stop? Now you've been responsible and you've put money in your IRA and you've saved and all the rest of that stuff. That's good, and you're going to have that. But there's a value there. There's a value that you can not directly sell necessarily, but that you can cash in on. Let me give you again, using lawyers as an example. When a lawyer gets a great reputation, but can no longer get out of the starting gates, all right, he doesn't have to be in a large firm. He can go over to a firm, find the right lawyer who has a younger lawyer who has a similar practice, and without even forming a partnership, they can form a relationship where this man who is well known and is continuing to bring in business that he just can't do anymore can pass that business on to this lawyer, this younger lawyer, and help those clients transition, first of all, to a new lawyer, because your clients are important to you and you generally establish relations. I'm representing grandkids of people that I represented years ago. So three generations of families have come, and those people I feel a special bond to. So I want to pass them on to a lawyer who I know is proficient and honest and good at what he does or she does. And so that lawyer, I haven't gotten to that stage of my practice yet, but that lawyer can get a benefit from that financially through a financial relationship without having to do the work that he doesn't want to do, but also by helping his clients establish a relationship with a new lawyer and then subsequently helping the new lawyer. Coaches can do the same thing. All right.
That's a
You've
good
got a
point.
great you got a great coaching practice. You got a great pipeline. You're filling that pipeline every month. You're excited. You've worked hard for years to get that done, and you're getting a lot of referrals, and you're just cooking right along. What are you going to do when you want to quit? You're just going to cut that off? Why
Well,
would you
and
do
it
that?
seems counterintuitive to just end that because it seems like, especially with where our financial markets are, it seems like it would be in your best interest as a coach, as an attorney, as a small business owner to try and leverage new monthly revenue streams as much as possible so that you're not having to rely so much on an IRA or a Roth or a Social Security benefit to help you. You can still maintain that new revenue stream. Isn't that what dang, I just lost his name. The guy who owns Berkshire Hathaway.
Uh,
You know what
sure.
he does? He still gets paid monthly for the work that he does, but he doesn't really work anymore. And he's kind
Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett.
Warren Buffett. Thank you. I can't believe I lost his name. I'm like, what is it? What is it?
Well, okay. So with that in mind, that's a plan. That's an exit plan,
Oh,
and
okay.
you need to start thinking about that exit plan. Now, you don't have to identify the actual person that you're going to do this with, but one of the things, if that's your exit plan, let's say as a coach, to establish this relationship, is to build a strong network of other coaches who are similar to you. And again, I think there's a reticence on new entrepreneurs to become too close to people who they see as competitors. In the speaking business, the guy who started the National Speakers Association used to talk about the fact people would say, "Oh, we don't need more speakers. They're only going to take another piece of the pie." And he said, "No, let's make the pie bigger." Okay, so let's in the coaching business or any business, yes, people are competitors, but they're not necessarily competitors. Again, when I first started practicing law, one of the things that I would pass on to young lawyers or young professionals or young people in any business that are starting out, I got about a third of my business after I established myself a little bit. I got a third of my business from one law firm in an accompanying city, a city about 30 miles away, who didn't want to come that 30 miles to do what these cases that were really kind of beneath them. But they didn't want to turn the clients away necessarily. So they said, "Look, Mr. Client, we have this lawyer out in Warren County who will do these things for us," and they would send those cases to me. So establishing relationships with people in your own profession is something or your own industry is something that's necessary. And if you become known as an expert or really good at something, those other people are going to send stuff to you. It's just a fact of life. Now, if you're not good, then, well, this goes into, can I get on another subject?
Go for it.
All right. Two things. I have a thing called the PAMPER principles, PAMPER.
Love it.
It's purpose, attitude, modeling and mentoring, passion, ethics, and respect. So the M for modeling and mentoring.
Love it.
If you want to know how to do something, find somebody to model that's doing what you want to do. Now, don't copy them, but find out who they know, find out where they go, find out how they do what they do, and then do it better, improve on it. But there's no, if I wanted to be a great basketball player, I would watch Michael Jordan or LeBron James. Seems pretty simple.
Right? I'm not a basketball person, but I know those names, so I'm with you. Yeah.
So I would model those people, and I would try to do. They go to the gym five times a day to do something. I'll go to the gym 5 times a day if I want to do that, and I'll try and do it better. So modeling is important, and so is mentoring. If you're successful in business financially, you need to be successful in business, for lack of a better term, spiritually, morally. Okay, you need to find somebody who is in your profession or your industry or your career who is younger in time, not necessarily in age, but younger in time in that business, and mentor that person. Share what you know with that person and help them up the ladder. As somebody said, good, take the elevator back down and put them in the elevator and bring them back up with you. For one thing, it's going to keep you sharper because that person's going to look to you for answers. And the other thing, that person's going to be going around telling everybody how smart you are. So, you get free publicity there. But the two things, modeling and mentoring, are two important keys in what I call the pamper principles. And that is advice that I would give anybody that's in business.
I love it. I love the pamper principle, and it goes right in line with some of the other conversations that we've had here on the show, talking about you touched on you need to be friends with your competition. I call it cooperation, because there is going to come a point when either one, you're at capacity and you can't take on that new business, but you still want to take care of that person. So where are you going to send them? They've got to go somewhere, right? And then two, you might be in a point where you're trying to work out your exit strategy. You need to have somebody that you can trust is going to take care of them, that you can then help with that transition and maybe still have some kind of revenue stream coming in on the side for making that relationship happen. And then also, I love the pamper principle and the idea of mentoring, because that person that you're doing cooperation with, maybe that's your mentor. How cool was that? How cool is that? Or maybe it's your mentee. How cool is that to say, I mentored this person. They're amazing. I know they're amazing. I know what they can do because they worked with me. They know everything I know and then some, because they've gotten mentored by other people too. I know you're going to be taken care of very well. So I think all of that really plays very nicely together in the whole concept of figuring out what that puzzle is supposed to look like at the end of the day.
Well, I will share a story with you, and it's kind of, it just makes you feel so good. I was in court the other day. A bunch of lawyers were standing around, and this one lawyer came up to me and put his arm around my shoulder and said to one of the other lawyers sitting there, he said, and the guy who was saying this was a retired lieutenant colonel in the Marines. And he said, you know, I clerked for Wayne when I was a young lawyer, or when I was a young law student. And he said, it's made all the difference in the world in my career and my practice. And I thought, you know, it doesn't get much better than that.
That's cool. Yeah. I mean, your mentees can be raving fans just like your clients can be.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So if there was one thing you wish you knew when you were starting your business, or when you were being a mentor or mentee, what's one thing you wish you knew that you would be willing to share with our audience? That's a tricky question for you because I know you have a lot of one things.
I do have a lot of one things. The one thing that I have learned that I suppose I wish I would have understood better when I started is the importance of establishing a relationship with your clients that nurtures them to be your marketing department. Now, when my clients first came in and I would first see somebody and I'd, you know, collect $50 and off they'd go, I didn't keep in contact with them. I didn't, of course, remember, we're talking about 1974. We didn't have databases like we do now. We didn't have email. We didn't have those things that that make it so easy to keep in contact with people. But still, I could have nurtured them better, because I quickly learned that your best source of business and your most economical source of business are the people that you've done business for. And so whether you're a plumber or a painter or a baker or a lawyer or a doctor, that relationship that you establish with those people that you're dealing with. We had a guy here today washing our windows. I just knew he was here. I didn't. Oh, I'll tell you what, we had a plumber a couple of weeks ago. We're getting ready to sell our house. We bought a villa, and so we're moving. And so, you know, those little things that need to be done, right? So we had a plumber come over a couple of weeks ago on a job that I couldn't do. And he came and he got it done and everything else, and he was gone. But he established just a good relationship with my wife. He liked it. He was there. He was polite. He was down to business and reasonably priced and friendly. And off he went. Well, 2 or 3 days ago, we had some clogged pipe that we discovered in getting ready. And again, who do we think of? We thought of him. I mean, why? Just because he took the time to establish that relationship with my wife that she remembered and talked about. There's a speaker, Fred Miller, is a local speaking coach in St. Louis, and Fred and I met because my wife came back. She's she's a recovering lawyer and an interior designer, and she came back from a design meeting, ASID, I think it's called. And Fred had been there talking to people about speaking, and he established a relationship with everybody. She came back and said, "Oh, this guy's just wonderful, Fred Miller." Well, it ends up I met Fred at a meeting, and I immediately knew who he was. So establishing that relationship, being more than just the guy who comes out and services your refrigerator and then leaves, establish a relationship. Those people will pay off, and
I mean, that's probably some of the best advice ever. I talk a lot to my immediate network about relationships, and networking isn't just about passing out business cards, but it's about developing those relationships, because it's cheaper to keep the client, first of all, than constantly be looking for a new one. And the best form of marketing you can ever have is word of mouth. But how do you get more mouths to promote you? Well, you do right by the mouths that you have, and then they're more likely to promote you, and they bring you more mouths to talk about. So that's the thing, like treating people the way that you want to be treated. Show respect, show courtesy, show kindness, show empathy, and be a resource for them when they need it the most. That's all part of that relationship building. And it's such a great tip, because we can have all the technology in the world and have all of the different ways to connect with people, but if you don't know how to build a relationship, it's all wasted, isn't it?
yeah. R, by the way, is the respect is the R in the Pamper principles.
Thank you.
Yes. So
Yeah. So can you tell us what the Pamper principle acronym is one more time?
the first one is purpose. Now they all need a little explanation, but we have purpose, attitude, modeling and mentoring, passion, ethics, and respect. And basically, you want to find your purpose, have a great attitude. Now, and finding your purpose is not saving the world, okay? It's just finding your purpose, whether it's to be the best spouse, the best widget maker, the best garbage man, the best whatever it is, or maybe not even to be the best. Maybe just my purpose is just to enjoy life as much as I can every day. That's my stated purpose. I will tell everybody that, and I do. So attitude, you have to have a great attitude. Attitude is everything. Modeling and mentoring, we talked a little bit about. Passion, find something that you're passionate about. A life without passion is you got to have a passion about something, and it doesn't have to be your job, okay? But find a passion, find something that you're really into. Ethics, nothing more important than ethics. That's your name, that's your brand, that's what people think about you, that's what people say about you. Financial gain is not worth ruining your ethics over. And then respect. First of all, learn how to respect yourself, because nobody's going to respect you if you don't respect yourself. And you also have to learn how to respect others and show those people respect. And it can be a complicated situation dealing with the issue of respect, but you need to work on it.
Amen. You cannot respect others if you cannot respect yourself, and others can't respect you if you don't respect yourself. Yeah. That nugget right there is gold, because that's one of the biggest challenges we have as business owners: respecting our time, respecting our phone and our technology, respecting our hours and the way that we like to work, so that we can work the best possible. And if we don't respect that, our customers aren't going to respect it either. Our clients aren't going to respect it. Our employees aren't going to respect it. So we have to respect ourselves enough to protect that time, protect that system, so that way we can grow.
Yeah, you understand that. I mean, that's good. I mean, I see that you do understand that. It is about respecting yourself. And it's also, it gets down to other things. I mean, there are people I was at a business meeting one time, a speaker convention, the annual convention, and there were vendors there. And this one vendor was at the cocktail party, and he was just sloppy drunk at this cocktail party. And then the next day he's there trying to sell me his product. And I thought, you can't do that. That's not respecting yourself. So there are any number of ways, you can micro it down to hygiene, but yes, respecting all of those things.
That's such a great point, though. I mean, how many business owners do we know that go to trade shows annually or semi-annually, and they have the open bar, or they have the party after hours one night, and you have a little too much to drink because it's been a hard day, you've been on your feet, you lost track of time, and before you know it, you're the one that's sloppy at the party, and tomorrow's not going to be a good day either. Right? We've all
Well,
been
and what that says to me is not that this guy wasn't really good at what he does, but he doesn't respect himself.
there.
And if he's not going to respect himself, what's he going to do with my business?
Oh, oh, interesting. That's an interesting perspective. If you don't respect yourself, what are you going to do with my business?
Mhm.
That is an awesome question. And one that we have to acknowledge as business owners. We have to look at ourselves and say, if I don't respect myself, what am I doing with the business that I'm receiving
Sure,
as
sure.
well? Yeah, so good. Wayne, this has been amazing. I know me and you can talk forever because we just get along so well, and I so appreciate your wisdom, your stories. It's just been incredible. Is there a way for our listeners to get in touch with you so that they can follow you and continue to learn from your wisdom, continue to hear more of your stories? What might that be?
The easiest way is to call me on the telephone, which is I give this number out to everybody. This is my cell phone. It's right here. You call it, I answer it, unless I'm in the middle of a podcast. It's 314 708 1000. Now, as I said, I don't use a receptionist or anything. I think if people honor their time enough to call me, I'm going to honor their time enough to answer them. And that's just the way I feel about doing business. If you want to email me, you have to have a pencil or a piece of paper to write this down. But it's Wayne at Wayne Schoenberg, SCHOENEBERG.com. I want to tell you, Terry, let me take one last chance here to tell you a cute little story.
Yes, I appreciate it. Thank you.
A couple of years ago, a guy came to town from England and they were doing a documentary on Chuck Berry. And as you and I discussed earlier, I've been Chuck Berry's personal attorney for 20 years. They wanted to interview me. So I sat for a couple of days of interviews, and as in all movies, they chop stuff up, and I might have 90 seconds in the movie, but they put my name up and they misspelled it, which is not uncommon. A lot of people leave the E out between the N and the B, and that's the way they spelled it. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with IMDb.
Yeah.
So I now have a listing in IMDb with my name spelled wrong.
I was going to say with the E missing.
I've decided, I told my wife, when I go in, now that I'm going to become a movie star, I'll just have to use the different spelling.
That's right. It's a pseudonym. It's
Yes,
like
it's
a pen name.
sure.
Sure. That's what we'll go with. By the way, that is Chuck in his background with an autographed photo. So it's very cool that you've had the honor and privilege of working with some amazing talent in our world. So, and I know that that is not something that you take lightly. And I love that you've been able to not only serve your clients, but you've been able to serve their kids and their grandkids too. And I think that really is a testament to your ethics, to your trust that you have in yourself, and to the respect that you give yourself and to your clients. So I really honor and appreciate your time today and you taking the time to be here with us and the knowledge that you've shared with the listening audience. So thank you.
Thank you. It's been a great time. I love talking with you.
Likewise, Wayne. Until next time, listeners, we'll talk to you soon.